I want to begin by quoting my favorite 20th century theologian Reinhold Niebuhr. The worst corruption is a corrupt religion. Thus, I call out white Christian nationalists and the cult of evangelical MAGA Christians who practice this corrupted religion with Donald Trump as their political leader. War should be unthinkable for Christians unless utterly necessary in self-defense after an attack on our sovereignty, after all other options are exhausted. President Trump and his crony Pete Hegseth, leaders of the evangelical MAGA churches, are attempting to rewrite our current war with Iran as simply a defensive one, which is empirically false, and sophistry because it brazenly ignores the glaring just war violations cited by the Pope last week. The war was launched illegitimately. No Congress or allied approval. It was an act of aggression, not defense, because the nuclear question had been resolved peacefully by the JCPOA before Trump tore it up, and any remaining serious nuclear threat had been obliterated. Last year, it never had a clear goal. Its violence was and is massively disproportionate and punitive. Targeting civilian infrastructure is a war crime, and it could easily have led to worse outcomes than it started with, like the closing of the Strait of Hormuz and a strengthening of the fundamentalist regime in Iran. Does the new ceasefire change this just war equation? Not at all. In fact, it reinforces the truth that this war was unnecessary and unprovoked, because all this violence and death has merely led back to the status quo ante. A maybe open Strait of Hormuz and a maybe semi-intact Lebanon. Any deal we may now reach will give the Iranians far more money than the deal Obama secured. A deal that could have been built on if Trump hadn't trashed it. The huge economic costs, the deep damage to NATO, the entrenchment of Iranian extremists, the exposure of our military as all powerful but kinda limited in a new era of drone warfare. All these remain in even morally necessary conflicts. Therefore, a Christian insists on his own brokenness, checks his own hubris, and believes that no side, least of all his own, is ever purely good, and no side is ever purely evil. In our desire to do good, Christians are supposed to understand we may and can also do evil, and sometimes the greatest evils are committed to achieve what are seen as the greatest goods. This tragic Christianity, laced with humility, was perhaps never more beautifully expressed than by Abraham Lincoln, who, even during a war against the absolute evil of slavery, refused to adorn himself with the mantle of God's will. Both sides read the same Bible and pray to the same God, and each invokes his aid against the other. It may seem strange that any man should dare to ask a just God's assistance in wringing their bread from the sweat of other men's faces. But let us judge, not that we be not judged. The prayers of both could not be answered. That of neither has been answered fully. For his part, of course, the president, who has no discernible Christian values of any kind, has actually threatened to wipe out an entire civilization. From a position of total military dominance plus, is declaring that God is unequivocally on his side in a campaign of naked, unfettered aggression, while offering this pre-Christian obscenity. That threat is still one of the most grotesquely immoral statements by any American president in history, and Trump is proud of it. We must begin to recognize a new Christian MAGA America in the world, deeply hostile to Christian values and Western civilization, theocratic, bullying, racist, violent, greedy, and imperialist. The Pope reminds us that it remains our urgent and vital moral duty to expose, resist, and end this alien philosophy and fake religion. America is not over, but we cannot begin again until this monster is gone, his movement defanged, and his malign wars of aggression ended. Prayer is not enough. We have to act and speak up and vote.